I think the changes in ESG have been pretty profound over the last 15 years. It's really become a mainstream business department. It's become part of the company in a way that I could never have envisioned 15 years ago. One of the key things that I always kind of look as a barometer is maybe 15 years ago I couldn't have bought a meeting with the investor relations team, but now we're joined at the hip. We're working all the time, talking with our investors, our customers, our other stakeholders. So it's a really central business function. The way we identify what our stakeholders want is, first of all, through conversations with them. So I spend a lot of time talking to investors, probably 40 to 50 meetings a year with our largest investors at Applied. But Datamaran is really instrumental in helping us see what the larger scale changes are in our stakeholders and also in the issues around ESG for our business. A materiality assessment is really important in setting your strategy. I've done this at other companies as well. And what's great about Datamaran in that regard is you can do it pretty quickly. It's fairly easy to set up your competitive set, the stakeholders, the geographies you're operating in, and really get a glimpse into what's most material quickly. And what's important about that is it then enables you to set your strategy in accordance with that. In terms of the outputs from our materiality assessment, there's a number of different audiences. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, it winds up in our sustainability report. And it's read by customers, employees, and investors, the three key stakeholders from my point of view. But it's also internally really important in terms of aligning the organization. Most ESG teams are not huge. It's only a handful of people. The way we get things done is through our ability to work with others across the organization. I always like to say ESG is a team sport. So, really good materiality assessment, one that's rooted in fact-based data like Datamaran, enables us to really align the organization. Well, the issues around not doing this properly, I think it starts to catch up with you in terms of your connection with your stakeholders. And also, although a lot of people like to think of ESG as a pre-competitive area, it's really not where there's a lot of IP and difference between companies. Companies do want to do better than each other, right? They want to compete for those stakeholders, and particularly investor dollars. And so if you're not up to the minute with your risk assessment, then you're going to fall behind and potentially pay the price with some of your stakeholders. Well, we keep a pulse on things. Actually, we just completed what I call an opportunity analysis, right? So we took Datamaran and kind of different to a materiality assessment, we looked at the top 20 issues, and then we looked at where we are, what's our position on those top 20 issues in ESG, and we compared ourselves to a number of different companies. Some of them were competitors, some of them were customers, and some of them were, as we like to think of, customers' customers, right? And so as we looked across that matrix, we saw a number of opportunities that were, fully laddered up to that risk assessment that we had done through Datamaran. We just presented that to senior management, and it's been, really impactful. And we're starting to do the work to close those gaps. Applied Materials, we feel really connected with our board and our C-suite. The great thing about what we're doing is it was originally relaunched, announced in 2020 by our CEO at a major conference for the semiconductor industry. There's a connection with him and his leadership team. We talk quarterly about the progress that we're making toward the 2030 goals we set. And we also meet with our board on a quarterly basis. And so the governance around what we're doing is pretty solid. Ratings and rankings are important to us. I think they're a great barometer of how we're doing. It's kind of the outcome from that opportunity matrix that I talked about before. So, what we're doing is, looking at particularly like CDP, and obviously that's one where we submit a response, but CDP is important to us, climate, water, and supplier engagement. And then we look at some of the others that are more, where they have the sort of proprietary models like MSCI, Sustainalytics, and ISS. And thankfully, Applied Materials does pretty well across the board. There's definitely a sense of pride at Applied Materials. I think Datamaran has helped contribute to that because of its structured approach and the fact-based approach around it. But what we've been able to do, in addition to that governance we talked about, is we've created an ESG leadership council. So that's that team that's working across the organization, in different parts of the company, whether it's the business units, the functions, and that's how we really kind of keep moving in the right direction toward the goals that we've set. The information that's really important for our leadership council is, first of all, our strategy, right? So from our strategy, we develop annualized goals. And actually, there's about 16 of those, and we have the usual kind of traffic lights approach to them. And so we review those quarterly to see if we're on track for that year, because 2030 goals, when they were set in 2020, it seems like it's a long time, but actually it's not that long, and we have to be making progress annually. So that's kind of number one. Number two is the ratings situation. How are we doing? What's gone up? What's gone down? This opportunity matrix that I talked about earlier is another important decision-making tool. I think in order for companies to really supercharge ESG and get it really moving, there's a number of different steps. One is to create that internal glue, the leadership team, because again, it's a team approach. So the way to do that, though, is to have goals that are aligned to your materiality assessment, and that are set and made public so that people feel committed. And then lastly, you really need senior management commitment, whether it's the CEO or the C-suite, because you need that support to drive the change and the commitment from across the company.